coffee, weed, cough syrup, methamphetamine, and then whatever the hell reindeer urine is. This iceberg has pretty much every drug out there. We're gonna talk about all of them. We're gonna learn about all of them. These are awesome. Let's get straight into this. Go follow my Instagram, join my Discord, and yeah, let's do this. Starting in the first layer with coffee. Okay, so let's learn about coffee. So there's a chemical in your brain that is produced when you're tired called adenosine. Now, adenosine molecules bind with adenosine receptors in your brain, which causes the feeling of tiredness and then eventually sleep. So it floats around in your brain for a little bit, and then eventually it connects to these receptors, and that's what makes you tired. Now, a caffeine molecule has the exact same shape as an adenosine molecule, which means that it'll bind perfectly with one of these adenosine receptors. But once it's bound, it doesn't do anything except to sit there and block the adenosine molecules from binding to that receptor. So basically, coffee just kind of stops you from being tired or feeling tired. It doesn't give you any energy, it just stops your brain from feeling tired when you would usually be tired. And that's why you get a caffeine crash after you drink too much, because your body is still producing that adenosine the whole time, as in as the caffeine molecules start to break down and then the receptors become free and open, all the adenosine just rushes straight to it, and that causes a crash. But here's the weird part about why caffeine is kind of bad for you in the long run, right? I'm just saying subjectively, right? Just in science, my opinion, you know, it can be kind of bad for you, because what happens is if you drink coffee every day, your body eventually realizes that something's up, something's weird, so your body makes more adenosine receptors to make you tired to counteract that in case there's some kind of disease or whatever. Like, it doesn't know what's going on, it doesn't know why you're not feeling tired, so it just creates more adenosine receptors. So the caffeine you drink in the morning in the coffee doesn't actually give you a boost in the morning. All it does is make you feel normal, pretty much. Now, caffeine also stimulates your nervous system. It makes it more active, which makes your heart beat faster and increases your blood pressure and so on. But this also promotes alertness because your nervous system is more active, right? Which also makes you have better physical coordination and improved reaction time, as well as delaying the onset of muscle fatigue. So a lot of cyclists will have an espresso before their ride because of these benefits. That's also why you drink a lot of caffeine before you go work out, like in pre-workout and stuff. So yeah, this coffee is pretty interesting. I hope I'm not boring you, because coffee is kind of boring, I guess, but I think it's pretty interesting how it actually works. Next up, we have cigarettes. So here's how cigarettes are made. The leaves of the tobacco plant are picked, dried, and then rubbed to produce a brown, flaky mixture. And then they roll this up into paper, and then you can light the end of the paper and smoke it, inhale it into your lungs. Smoking gives you a hit of nicotine, which is the addictive substance in tobacco. Nicotine is a stimulant which raises your heart rate and blood pressure. First-time smokers often feel sick and dizzy when they first inhale nicotine for the first time. Many smokers believe that smoking tobacco helps them to relax and to handle stress, but smoking actually increases anxiety and tension. Smoking interferes with certain chemicals in the brain. When a smoker hasn't had a cigarette for a while, the craving for another one makes them feel irritable and anxious. These feelings can be temporarily relieved when they light up a cigarette, which is why smokers associate their improved mood with smoking. In fact, it's the effects of smoking itself that pretty much more likely has caused the anxiety in the first place. Now, tobacco smoke contains over 5,000 chemicals, many of which are poisonous, including more than 70 that can cause cancer, literally. So for example, in tobacco smoke, there is tar, which is a mixture of dangerous chemicals, arsenic, which is used in rat poison and wood preservatives, benzene, which is an industrial solvent, is refined from crude oil, cadmium, which is used in batteries, ethanol, which is used in antifreeze, formaldehyde, which is used in mortuaries to embalm dead bodies, polonium-210, which is a highly radioactive element, chromium, which is used to manufacture dyes, paints, and alloys, acrolein, which is formerly used as a chemical weapon, hydrogen cyanide, which is used as an industrial pesticide, carbon monoxide, which is contained in exhaust fumes, and also every house has a carbon monoxide alarm, and then ammonia, which is used to make fertilizers, explosives, and mustard gas. I'm gonna try to get through these kind of boring ones pretty quick. I could just say some more about cigarettes, like lung disease and heart attacks and cancers and stuff, and it causes reduced fertility as well, but it's all just kind of boring, so I'm just gonna move on here. Next up on the iceberg is alcohol. Alcohol comes in a wide variety and range of drinks with different alcoholic strengths, colors, and tastes, so it can really look different a lot. Alcohol often has labels with useful information, such as how many units are in the drink, and all labels are required by law to display the strength of the drink, which is alcohol by volume or ABV. Okay, let's talk about the different ways you can, quote, take alcohol. I know it sounds like a weird narc when I say take alcohol, but you know what I mean. So the scientific name for alcohol is ethanol or ethyl alcohol. Okay, so spirits, also known as liquor, apparently they call it spirits, like in England or something. I'm getting most of my information from an English website, so I think that's why it's called that. But liquor usually contains a much higher concentration of alcohol than wine or lager and are normally drunk in smaller measures, which is why whenever you see somebody drinking like a little whiskey or rum or another liquor like that, you're usually gonna see it in a really like small amount in the little cup. Ready to drink mixers and alcopops may not seem to be strong, but they actually contain more alcohol than typical bottles or cans of beer or cider. Okay, how does alcohol make you feel? You can just, I'll put a timestamp by the way on screen because I feel like this is so boring. Like, because me personally, I'm 17, right? So I don't know what getting drunk feels like, but I feel like a lot of people that watch my videos already know this stuff. So like skip to this timestamp right here on screen if you don't want to learn about any of the things in the top layer. And also I already have the timestamps for it too. So you can just skip to the second layer where we get into more interesting stuff. But I think it's stuff interesting. I'm just going to get through it pretty quick. So alcohol makes you feel sociable. Too much and you'll have a hangover the next day and maybe even lose your memory. And then way too much alcohol in a single session could put you into a coma or even kill you. And then some positive effects of alcohol include reduced feelings of anxiety and inhibitions, which again helps you feel more sociable. And also an exaggeration of whatever mood you're in when you start drinking. So if you're in like a good mood, you're out with your friends, you get drunk, it's usually gonna be a good drunk. But then if you're like drinking away your problems, it's usually gonna be like a sad drunk. Drinking a lot of alcohol, which means more than 6 to 8 units, will make you physically, technically intoxicated or drunk. And this will show itself as increasingly slurred speech, a lack of coordination, and blurred vision. Now here's the fun part. Alcohol also raises testosterone levels in males and females, which affects both sexual drive and aggression. No, wait, actually, I think to make this video a little bit more fun, I'm gonna do a tier list of every drug based on my opinion of how fun it would be. Hypothetically, in a very hypothetical world, I'm gonna do a tier list of these drugs. Also, most of these are illegal, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say right now, this is purely for educational purposes, purely for entertainment purposes. I am not telling anybody to go out and do any of these drugs. Please do not do any of these drugs that I'm mentioning, especially if it's legal where you are. Do not do it, please. Disclaimer for YouTube, for the legal bot, whatever. This is not what I want you to do, okay? But okay, editor, get a tier list going. I'm gonna put coffee in S tier because I start every day with a cup of coffee. Cigarettes in D tier because they're boring and stupid and they taste gross. And then I'm gonna put alcohol here. I was gonna put it also like a C tier because it's kind of like pointless, right, and boring. But I'm gonna put it at a B tier because it boosts testosterone and sexual drive. Now, also a big thing about alcohol is that it stops your judgment ability. You can't make decisions as well. The more you drink in a sitting, the more your judgment will be affected, and this can lead to you doing things or taking risks that you wouldn't otherwise. Now, alcohol doesn't usually last that long. Alcohol is usually broken down by the liver into other compounds at the rate of about 1 unit per hour. So if you're just casually drinking, you'll be fine by the morning, or you might have a little bit of a hangover. Now, drinking is only really dangerous if you're drinking more than 14 units per week or binge drinking. Obviously, drinking and driving, all these things, I mean, alcohol, I feel like most of these drugs are like more dangerous in a controlled environment, but I feel like alcohol is really pretty much the most dangerous one on this whole iceberg here, just because of how normalized it is. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be normalized, but I'm just saying that like everybody drinks alcohol. Most adults drink alcohol, right? But it can actually like mess with your brain. It can actually cause damage to yourself or others. And because of how normalized it is, because of how regular and normal it is to drink alcohol, I feel like it's the most dangerous on this iceberg. Because like, I mean, maybe except for like fentanyl, which is gonna be later on. Like I feel like most drugs on here, it's like taken usually with like some kind of respect and knowledge of what it's going to do to you. But alcohol is just so normalized. I mean, it causes car accidents, it causes domestic violence, it causes so much stuff. I mean, it gives you cancer, stroke, heart disease, liver, damage to your brain, damage to your nervous system. I mean, all this stuff is like toxic for you. And again, it's like totally like fine for you if you don't take too much. Like I think it was like 14 units per week is like the rule that most people go by. But just because of how normalized it is, it can really be dangerous because you're thinking like this isn't really that big of a deal when it kind of can be. Now, you can get chemically addicted to alcohol. It is bad for addiction, but I need to wrap this up because this is boring. This is really boring. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about this stuff. Most people probably have skipped past this anyway, so let's get into the next one. Weed. Okay, weed is cannabis. That's like the official name for it is cannabis. It's a plant. It can be smoked, eaten, or vaped. And let's get into this stuff. Now, weed can look very different depending on where you're getting it from. So it can look like soft black resin, furry green leaves, or hard brown lumps. But it all comes from cannabis plants. Okay, so it only shows weed on here. So I'm just gonna cover all of cannabis here because there's a lot more than just technically quote weed. So weed is also known as grass. It's made from drying out the leaves and the flowering parts of the cannabis plant, and then you smoke it, right? But then there's also skunk, which is a name given to a particular strain of grass that is also very, very stronger. Skunks become very popular in recent years and is often bright, pale, or dark green in color and covered in tiny crystals. Next, we have hash or hashish. This is not nearly as common as it used to be, and it's made from the resin of the cannabis plant. It can be black, brown, soft, or hard, depending on the type. We also have a cannabis oil, which is a dark, sticky, and honey-colored substance that's much less common than other types. And then we have dab or shatter, which are highly concentrated forms of cannabis that are extracted using butane. And they come in a solid form known as dab or shatter, and they can be used as e-liquids and vape pens. And there are a million ways to take weed. I'm just gonna go through some of the basic ones, some of the ones I found interesting. I mean, obviously you can roll it into a joint or a spliff, same thing. Well, they're the same in that they both use a cigarette casing wrap. A spliff is when you mix it with tobacco. And also, okay, side note, I recently learned that the song Puffin' on Zooties by Future, which he uses that, he says zooted all the time, he uses zooties, right? What a zootie is a spliff. I think it's 70% tobacco and then 30% weed. I'm not sure 100%, but that's what it is. It's a spliff from England. And then people also smoke it in a bong, and people do this by mixing the drug with tobacco and then putting it in a pipe, lighting it, and then inhaling the smoke through water out of a large tube. And then also not everyone uses tobacco when they're smoking out of a bong. There are edibles too. You can mix it into a cake, a tea, a yogurt, some candy. You can, I mean, there's edibles for everything. You can also vape or e-cig that stuff, weed. So the effects of weed vary a lot, like really are varied and different between each people. Like some people say that being stoned makes them feel chilled out and happy in their own thoughts, and others say that it makes them giggly and chatty, but it also makes some people feel lethargic, unmotivated, and some people feel confused, anxious, and paranoid. And it depends on a lot. Like it depends on what kind of person you are. Like if you're outgoing, it's gonna make you probably more outgoing. The mood you're in, like if you're feeling down, it'll probably make you feel even worse. The environment you're in, like you're more likely to feel paranoid or anxious if you don't feel comfortable where you are, or if you're not with people that you trust. How much THC that it has, which is the main psychoactive compound in weed. How much CBD it has, which is thought to make users less likely to be anxious and paranoid. And CBD is also used as like a therapy thing. Like I've seen CBD at like my food line a bunch. And then how much you take and how often you take it, like how used to it you are. Weed does affect your judgment a little bit, and it makes people have like really like deep conversations, or they think that it's deep when it's not really deep. It also makes you hungry or feel sick, which is referred to as the munchies and a whitey respectively. And now here's what's interesting that I didn't even know, because I'm just like, I'm a straight edge kid. I'm like 17, right? I'm white. Don't put the I'm white part in this, seems racist. Don't put that in, just cut it there, please. But apparently you can experience mild hallucinations if you take like really strong cannabis and take enough of it. It also makes you have trouble concentrating and learning new information, but it is really like, it can be anxiety relieving to a lot of people, which is why a lot of people use it. Now, some of the risks with weed are obvious, like it can make you wheeze and out of breath, it can make you cough, and it can make your asthma worse if you have asthma. But then also it can increase the risk of lung cancer, heart rate, blah, blah, blah. Now, cannabis can also affect your motivation to do things, impact your memory, give you mood swings, blah, blah, blah. A lot of bad stuff, which definitely can be outweighed by the good stuff, depending on who you are. I'm not here to make any judgments at all. Weed is weed is addictive, but it's also a cool drug. But also the mental health risks and then the sperm count. Are you kidding me? I'm gonna have to give it a C. I'm putting this one in the C tier. All right, next on this iceberg we have tea, which I'm gonna skip because I don't really think that counts. Tea is just, you know, leaves have chemicals in it. You make it hot enough, the chemicals get into the water, you drink it, boom, it tastes different, you get different effects from it. Chamomile makes you sleepy. You can take mushrooms this way. The psilocybin in the mushrooms, put it into tea, the hot water, like makes it go into the water, and then boom, you drink it, boom, boom, then you see things. But tea, I love tea. I drink it all the time. Let's get an A tier. I love tea. I drink it when I make videos. All right, next up we have vapes on this iceberg. So I'm sure we all know what a vape is. It is a machine that takes nicotine, flavorings, and certain other chemicals like propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin, and then makes it into a vapor that you inhale from it. There are vape bars, compact pod devices patches, vape pens, and cigalikes. And then boom, you suck on it, boom. It's the same as smoking pretty much, but it's just a different way of taking in the nicotine, but the nicotine is like the main buzz you get from it. It could be argued that it's safer than cigarettes because you're not getting the tobacco in there, and tobacco can be dirty or whatever, but also you're getting more chemicals with this one, so I don't know, it's kind of whatever. I don't really care about vaping, I'll put it in C tier. All right, next we have anabolic steroids, also known as juice. So steroids are taken as tablets or as liquid for injection, like you can inject it or take it as a tablet. And also they're not just used for like muscle gain, they're also used to treat anemia and muscle weakness after surgery, so that's pretty cool. But how does it work exactly? Because I think that's the coolest thing about all these drugs, and that's what I'm going to be trying to explain in this video, is how all these drugs actually work in your brain. So steroids are drugs that mimic certain natural hormones in the body that regulate and control how the body works and develops. Now, there are two main groups of these natural steroids. There are anabolic steroids and corticosteroids. Also, shout out to my biology professor, because now I know that steroids are fats and not proteins. So yeah, shout out, shout out. The one person who was in my science class last semester will know what I'm talking about. So shout out to you as well if you're watching this. I know you, I mean, you probably are. You're my Discord. So hopefully you watch my videos, because my videos are really awesome. Anyways, now it's the anabolic steroids that tend to be misused because they are pretty similar to the male hormone testosterone, and they can improve endurance and performance, and they can stimulate muscle growth. They're used by some bodybuilders, athletes, and other sports people because of their performance enhancing effects. And these users may consume 10 to 100 times the medical dose I was talking about. So steroids actually make it so people can train harder and longer. It helps them recover quicker, and then obviously it helps them build muscle mass. But I didn't know that. I thought that all it did was like make you build more muscle mass. I didn't know that it actually makes you be able to like train harder and train longer. But it can also make some pretty bad changes in your body, like acne and shrunken testicles. And it can also make you feel paranoid, irritable, aggressive, and violent, and like give you mood swings and stuff. So this one's an F tier. Steroids F tier. If you use them, you're a loser. You're a freak. Yeah. Go natty like a real man. Go natty like a real man. If you're a woman, steroids can actually shrink your breasts and give you an enlarged. So yeah, this is an F tier. If you're okay, if you're a woman, this can actually shrink your breasts and give you a. Just look up what it might enlarge if you're a woman. Okay, moving on. Those were all boring. That was layer 1, and now we're getting into the fun stuff, layer 2, starting with amphetamines. Okay, I don't know about you, but I always thought amphetamines were like chill drugs, right? Because I heard the song by Smino called Amphetamine, and that song's like dreamy. It puts me to sleep. It's really good, but it's like dreamy, and I thought that's what amphetamines were, but no, not at all. It's the exact opposite. So in amphetamine, what it does is it makes you, it's like a stimulant drug, and the most like popular, most common form of it is what we call casually speed. It's usually an off-white or pinkish powder, and it can sometimes look like crystals as well, like methamphetamine, which we'll get into later. But for now, we're just talking about speed. So speed makes you alert, energized, wide awake, excited, etc. It makes you like talking and dancing more, and it also stops you from feeling hungry, and that's why a lot of times, like back in the day, speed became popular because it was sold as diet pills. So like in the 70s, 60s, whatever, people would buy these diet pills. It's literally just an amphetamine at speed, and it makes you not hungry. So yeah, it just makes you, it can make you like panic and agitated, makes you chatty, talkative. It's like it boosts your heart rate. It puts a huge strain on your heart. And speed is also usually taken like a pill, or it's injected, or you crush it up and snort it, or you dab it on your gums, or you roll it up in cigarette paper and swallow it. But now, how does amphetamine work exactly? So what it does is it increases the activity of certain neurotransmitters in the brain, particularly dopamine and norepinephrine, or norepinephrine. Now, it does this by promoting the release of these neurotransmitters from nerve endings and inhibiting their reuptake. So it releases them from the nerve endings, so then, you get the dopamine, and then it inhibits their uptake, which is the process by which the neurotransmitters are taken back into the nerve endings after they're released. And then this leads to alertness, concentration, physical energy, and the reduction in appetite that we were talking about. That's pretty cool. But yeah, that Smino song definitely got me on the wrong path. All right, next we have cocaine, Wolf of Wall Street, American Psycho. So in cocaine, there are 3 types, actually. There's coke, crack, and freebase. Coke is a fine white powder. Crack is like small lumps or rocks, and then freebase is like a crystallized powder. So most people snort cocaine. They'll crush it into a fine powder and then divide it into lines and snort it up your nose, you know, like the classic way. That's mostly coke. But you can also smoke it, which is where crack or freebase comes in, because then you can smoke crack or freebase through a glass pipe, a tube, a plastic bottle, or in foil. Now, cocaine makes you happy, excited, wide awake, confident, on top of your game. It can also make your heart beat faster, raise your body temperature so you end up like feeling hot like a fever. It stops you from feeling hungry, makes you feel sick, it makes you need to go poop, makes you paranoid, makes you chattier. Very similar to an amphetamine in the effects, actually. But also it can make you overconfident and arrogant, agitated, restless, and edgy. Cocaine can increase your sexual desires, and some people take it to have more intense sex. But taking a lot of cocaine can actually reduce your sex drive over like long term, so not good. But then generally speaking, it should go back to normal after they stop taking it excessively. Now, cocaine has a whole slew of physical and mental health risks. So it's risky for anyone with high blood pressure or a heart condition, but then even young people who are like healthy can have a heart attack or a stroke. The risk of overdose increases if you mix cocaine with other drugs or alcohol, so don't mix it. Now, here's interesting. Over time, snorting cocaine can damage the cartilage in your nose that separates your nostrils. So heavy users can lose this cartilage and end up with one large nostril. That's kind of funny. And of course, smoking it can cause breathing problems. Injecting cocaine can damage your veins and cause ulcers. And then speedballing, which is when you do cocaine and heroin together, can have very fatal results. Not good. Not good. Now, the mental health risks are equally as cool and interesting. So it makes you, so if you use it like regularly, it can make you depressed, anxious, paranoid. You can get pretty heavily addicted to it, obviously. So not good. Not good. Very, very addictive. But now, how does it work exactly? It actually works super similarly to amphetamine. These are like very, very similar drugs. So cocaine blocks the reuptake of dopamine and serotonin and other happy chemicals in the brain. So it just makes it so that once you are happy, you can't get unhappy like for a while. Like it won't let you get unhappy. And then also, of course, those hormones, those chemicals make you more alert. It can raise your blood pressure, blah, 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 obviously. Cocaine, okay, cocaine, I'm gonna give a C for cocaine, a C for cocaine. I'd give it a D, but Patrick Bateman is really cool and he does cocaine, so like, I mean, come on, American Psycho, come on, C for cocaine. Next up we have LSD. LSD was a song released in 2015 from A$AP Rocky's album At Long Last A$AP. This to this date is still one of his most streamed and most popular songs on Spotify and one of his most influential songs.
Wait, what?
Oh, it means the drug LSD. Okay, never mind, guys. My fault. Okay. The LSD, the chemical LSD. So LSD is also known as acid, tab, Lucy, drop, which is where drop head comes from. Tripper, window. I've never heard of these. They're probably British terms, dude. Freaking British people, bro. Come on. If you're British, don't watch my videos. I'm actually kidding, please. I want your ad revenue. But if you're British, you're a loser. I have too many British people in my Discord. Freaking Drain. If you're watching this, bro, stop being British. Go brush your teeth. I'm kidding, guys. I'm actually totally kidding. All a joke. Please join my Discord. Let's talk. Let's get into a VC. Let's play Minecraft together. Anyways, LSD is usually sold as a small square of paper with pictures on them, known as tabs or blotters. But LSD can also be sold as a liquid or as tiny pellets, known as microdots. And then LSD has no real taste. Like the liquid has no taste at all, and then the tabs just taste like the paper. So the way that you take it is, if it's a liquid, you can drop it onto your tongue or into a drink or food, and then just take it like that, and then swallowing it if it's a tab or a pellet. But the most common way with the paper, what you do is you just put it on your tongue, put it on your tongue, and then boom. So LSD actually stands for lysergic acid diethylamide, and commonly, you know, is called acid. We get the one Blade bar where he says, "You want cop some acid, bro? I'm selling you paper." That's a bar. So LSD obviously makes you feel euphoric and giggly and makes you feel in awe and energized. But what it really is it's a hallucinogenic drug. So you see stuff, you see a whole bunch of stuff. It feeds off your imagination. When you take it, the world appears distorted around you, and then colors and sounds and objects and even time can all seem very strange and disturbing. Sounds hypothetically awesome. LSD can actually take from 20 minutes up to 2 hours to take effect, so it's kind of a while. And then of course there's, you know, risks like blah 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 blah, mental health risks, It's scary. But here's the thing. There's actually literally no evidence to suggest that LSD has any long-term physical damage, except it like if on a trip you can like harm yourself. If you're tripping, you can like harm yourself. So that's like the one like physical thing about it. But really there's no damage. But now how does it work exactly? So LSD is a psychological drug that primarily affects serotonin receptors in the brain, particularly the 5-HT2A receptor. Now, by activating these receptors, LSD can significantly alter your thoughts, perceptions, and feelings, leading to visual hallucinations, changes in the perception of time and space, and intense emotional experiences. Now, the exact mechanisms through which LSD induces these vivid experiences are still under study, but it's known to affect various brain regions involved in mood and perception. So this one's kind of a mystery still. And LSD is pretty awesome. LSD is pretty awesome. I'm gonna give it an A tier because of the Blade lyric. I mean, Blade does LSD. Blade sells fake LSD. Boom. It's getting A tier. A tier. Let's go. Next up, we have DXM. Now, DXM's a weird one on this iceberg because it is a drug that is actually legal, like fully legal. You can buy it in just like bottles and pills at like Walmart or CVS. You have to be 18 to buy it in the United States, but it's a fully legal drug. It is a cough syrup. It is a cough suppressing ingredient that's found in a lot of over-the-counter like cough and cold medicines. But the biggest, before I get into what it is exactly, just a warning, you know, because I said it's legal, but the biggest thing with it, the biggest warning is that it's often sold in cough syrups, but it is dangerous if you take it in anything that's not pure. You have to take it pure for it to be safe. Like you can go get a cough medicine that has DXM in it, but then it also has like acetaminophen or Tylenol in it, and then like an expectorant like Gothicin. And if you take that to trip, it will harm you. It is harmful, bad, it could kill you, liver damage, blah, blah, blah. Do not do that. But you can also get it in pure stuff. Like there are certain brands, like I know Robitussin and Robotabs are like popular ways to take it, where it's just pure DXM. Also, but those brands also make like other ones too. So be careful. I'm just warning you. Warning, be careful what you're putting in your body. But anyways, what is it? It is a drug that is very similar to PCP and ketamine. It is a dissociative anesthetic, meaning DXM effects can induce hallucinations. DXM can produce euphoria and mind-altering effects when taken in quantities greater than the recommended treatment dose. So that's what it is. If you take enough just to, you know, get your cough gone, you won't trip or anything. But if you take enough, then you might trip. But I feel like I gotta be extra careful about this one because this one's legal, so I gotta be extra careful. Know what you're doing before you try to trip on this. Please do your research. And I'm not gonna make a tutorial on how to do DXM. Now, there are different plateaus there are in DXM for people who have like misused it. There are 4 different layers of DXM that like you can get to, where it's different effects, different symptoms for each layer. And the symptoms range from mild distortions of color and sound to visual hallucinations and out-of-body sensations, and also like a loss of motor control. Now, people call DXM as slang. They call it Dex, Robo, Skittles, Triple C, and Tussin. Okay, but let's go back to those plateaus I was talking about because it's really interesting, I think. So the first plateau is when you barely take any, and is kind of similar to a weak ecstasy, people say. It causes mild stimulation and has an uplifting effect, and people also say that it makes you feel more energetic, social, and talkative. Now, the second plateau feels like alcohol, apparently. It makes you feel kind of drunk, but it also gives you a more noticeable decrease in motor and cognitive functioning. And also you can get euphoria and slight hallucinations around here. Now, the third plateau is when it gets interesting. This is when it becomes kind of similar to ketamine. You can get strong dissociation, intense hallucinations, and a loss of motor control and like coordination. And then the fourth plateau is the really high one. It feels like PCP. The fourth plateau gives you a trance-like state, and it gives you sensations similar to an out-of-body experience. Delirium and hallucinations can lead to violent behavior, and you can get reduced pain perception. This is when it gets crazy. So the physical side effects are, it makes you have a hot, like increased body temperature, hot flashes, sweating, nausea, dizziness, slurred speech, itching apparently. That's kind of weird. And again, be careful with this. Like, it is legal. This is a legal thing to trip on. But you gotta be careful. You can't mix it with anything else. And then also you can't do it too much, because if you do it like if you go to like the fourth plateau, like go crazy one night, right? The next night you can't do it again because your liver can't take that much. You know, they say that you should wait as many weeks as what plateau you got to. So if you went to fourth plateau, you got to wait 4 weeks to do it again. Third plateau, wait 3 weeks, etc. And just use your common sense. You know, I feel like I gotta be extra careful again with this one because it's like legal. Gotta be careful, gotta be safe. But now, how does DXM work? So again, you gotta remember that DXM is a cough suppressant, right? So it makes it so you don't cough. But how does it do that? So it inhibits a part of your brain that makes you cough. So it like turns off those parts of your brain that tell you to cough whenever you get like an itchy throat or whatever, you know, it turns that off. But then if you take enough of it, it starts to turn other parts of your brain off as well. It turns off motor function, motor coordination, certain levels of knowing where you are, and like, wait, what's the word? Sentience. So that's how it works. You take enough of it, boom, boom, it turns off your brain a little bit. Pretty interesting. All right, so I'm gonna have to give this one, guys, it's legal. It's like pretty safe, pretty much like it's like researched and safe. I'm gonna give this one an S tier, DXM S tier, boom. You win, S tier. All right, next we have Adderall on this iceberg. Okay, so simply put, Adderall gives you a surge of energy. It is a drug used to combat ADHD, which is weird, because I feel like if you don't have ADHD and you take it, it gives you ADHD because it makes you hyperproductive and crazy. It makes you perform better, it makes you accomplish difficult tasks with ease, but then it gets bad because then there's the Adderall crash. By the way, Adderall's illegal. Just have to say that it's illegal for recreational use, so be careful. Don't do it. So the crash is what happens after someone's been using Adderall for several days, and during this time they will not sleep, eat, and they'll drink very little fluids, and then as a result of this binge, the body will crash. Without sleep, food, or water, the body will begin to shut down, and then users will have no choice but to go to sleep and a kind of blackout. And they might sleep for like 24 to 48 hours. They kind of like, they pull a Nezuko, you know, because like you can't eat or sleep, so you just like go into like a coma to regain your energy. You pull a Nezuko. And the Adderall crash is just absolutely like miserable. Like your entire body hurts, you're starving, you're dehydrated, your brain is not happy because it wants more Adderall, it's used to it, you know, it's addictive. So yeah, bad. But it does make you get some stuff done, bro. It gets you working, which is good. Now, Adderall is a combination of amphetamine salts, and it works pretty similar to amphetamine. It increases the availability of neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine in the brain, leading to improved attention, focus, and control over impulses. So that's how it works. But yeah, this one's kind of weird. Don't do it. It's illegal. Don't do it. Giving Adderall I haven't given any B's yet, have I, dude? I'll give Adderall a C because that like, oh my god, that crash sounds awful, sounds horrible. So yeah, C. All right, next up we have Xanax, everyone's favorite. Okay, so let's talk about Xanax. Now, be prepared again because Xanax is also a drug that Patrick Bateman uses in the book, so I'm gonna be kind of nice to this one. So Xanax is a potent prescription medication, and it's used most commonly for the treatment of severe anxiety. It is a very short-acting, rapid benzodiazepine, and because it's so short-acting, it is very strong, which means it is very easy to get addicted, and then coming off of it is very difficult. And even when it is prescribed, it's usually used only for panic attacks or hyperventilation or like super severe symptoms, and it's like almost never prescribed to be taken daily. Now, Xanax has some kind of like varying effects. It can get some people to have like a euphoric high, but then other people can just feel super like calm and relaxed, and it's very sedative and calming to you. And most addiction to Xanax comes from people who take it for their stress, or they take it to go over like an emotionally traumatic experience, you know, because usually like it's so strong that you wouldn't usually take it unless you need it, but then you might get addicted to the feeling that it gives you, you know, because like maybe you go through something traumatic, you take Xanax to get through it, but then your body depends on it after that. It's also pretty accessible because it is prescribed kind of commonly, so it's pretty easy to get your hands on it from a friend or your aunt or something, you know. It's kind of easy to go steal from grandma's cabinet. I would make more jokes about that, but I feel like I shouldn't because I feel like this video already might get demonetized. It shouldn't, because this is all educational and hypothetical except for the legal ones. Every single illegal drug I'm talking about is hypothetical and educational YouTube. But anyways, Xanax has a lot going for it, I'm just gonna say, because Xanax gave us like probably the best Future song ever, Xanax Damage. Xanax looks awesome. Like the word Xanax, it just looks sick. It's a freaking palindrome. It uses an X. It's a cool word, okay? It's a really cool word. Now, Xanax works because it increases the activity of something called GABA, or gamma aminobutyric acid, and it is an inhibitory transmitter in the brain. Now, by enhancing the effects of GABA, Xanax induces a calming effect on the nervous system, which helps with sleep and helps with insomnia and stuff. So that's how it works, and the chemical name for it, by the way, if you were curious, is alprazolam. All right, next we have kratom. Okay, now kratom's kind of a weird one. This is the first one on this iceberg that I have never heard of before. So kratom abuse has actually been around for thousands of years, as indigenous people like laborers and farmers in Thailand and Malaysia reportedly chewed the leaves of the plant or brewed them in tea in order to combat fatigue, increase energy levels and productivity, and to relieve pain or strained muscles. Now, kratom is a botanical substance coming from the plant Mitragina speciosa, native to places like Thailand and other regions of Southeast Asia. Kratom can, in effect, make someone high when abused. In Thailand, it is considered a controlled substance and the third most commonly illegal abused drug. In the United States, kratom is listed as a drug of concern by the DEA, but it's not controlled or considered illegal in most states. So be careful, check your state, obviously, but yeah, it's not illegal in most states. Now, kratom can be mixed with a caffeinated beverage or a codeine-containing cough syrup to create a drink called 4 times 100. Now, here's where it gets fun. Kratom is known to have a variety of reported uses and desired effects, from sexual enhancement to pain relief to a safe and legal high. In North Carolina, represent New York, Colorado, and possibly more states, kratom may be sold as a drink called ketum in bars. Now, what exactly are the effects of kratom? So it takes effect in about 5 to 15 minutes, so it's pretty quick. In low doses, it is considered to be a stimulant drug that increases sociability and alertness, but in a higher doses, kratom actually has effects similar to opioid drugs, such as reduced anxiety, sedation, lowered pain sensations, relaxations, and pinpoint pupils. So it's just a pretty euphoric, light drug, pretty much. And it's not even really illegal in most places. But it can be bad. It depends on the person. It can cause things like psychosis, confusion, delusion, blah, blah, blah. So it can be bad. Be careful. Be careful, everybody out there. Be careful. Now, the active compounds in kratom are mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine. And these two active ingredients interact with opioid receptors in the brain, leading to pain relief, sedation, and a feeling of euphoria at higher doses. So yeah, that's how it works. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's an opioid receptor drug, and you can sip it in a tea. I don't know, guys. I might gotta pick up some kratom tea. I'm gonna have to give kratom a B. I'm gonna give it a B because it's legal, it's tea, but also I've heard that it's really hard to get off of. If you take it a lot, it's kind of hard to get unaddicted to it, and also I want to fill that spot. I want to put something in the B tier. I want to put something in the B tier, so B. And with that, we are done with layer 2. So let's get straight into layer 3, starting with methamphetamine. So again, methamphetamine is a part of the amphetamine family of stimulant drugs. It comes in a lot of forms, just like amphetamine, powder, crystals, tablets. This is one that I feel like a lot of people know about because of Breaking Bad. You know, you watch Breaking Bad, you know about meth, you know all about it. It's basically a science class or whatever, you know. No, bro, I literally have people like that at my school. Like,
I've seen Breaking Bad, so actually I know all about chemistry.
But anyways, I will go through this one kind of quicker just because, you know, it's kind of oversaturated or whatever. Methamphetamine can create a similar feeling to crack cocaine, but a lot longer lasting, and it's also a lot dirtier. It makes you feel paranoid, confused, aggressive, aroused, alert, exhilarated, awake. It lasts a very long time. It can last between 4 and 12 hours. The come down is really severe, and that's why it is so addictive. There are so many health risks with meth. Increased heart rate and blood pressure, stroke, lung and kidney damage. It can cause brain damage if you take it a bunch, and your libido can be increased, like crazily increased, leading to unsafe sex. It can cause psychosis, and it's just not a good time. It's just not a good time. It's extremely addictive. Now, methamphetamine increases the amount of dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine in your brain by promoting their release and blocking their reuptake, just like amphetamine. It's just stronger and it lasts a whole lot longer, and it's bad for you. It's bad for you. I'm just gonna say it. It's bad for you. F tier drug, LLL. Next up, we have clonazepam, also known as Klonopin. Now, this one is in the same drug family as Xanax, and they are pretty much a very similar, almost exact drug. Xanax stays in your body for 6 to 25 hours, while clonazepam stays for about 22 to 54 hours. So it's less like really quick acting. It's more of a drawn out feeling. But yeah, it's pretty much the same thing as Xanax. Like, it's very similar to Xanax. It does the same thing to you. De-stresses, you know, gets you to sleep, whatever. Not gonna spend a lot of time on this one at all. So yeah, let's just move on. Next up, we have SSRIs, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So you can kind of notice a pattern here. A lot of these drugs like stop the reuptake of certain chemicals in your brain. So SSRIs are antidepressant medications used to treat depression, anxiety, anxiety, panic disorder, and several other mental health conditions. SSRIs are also the most commonly prescribed antidepressants, and they are considered relatively safe and cause fewer side effects than other kinds of medications used to treat depression. About 13% of US adults actually take antidepressants. Now, there are a whole lot of different types of SSRIs, such as citalopram, brand named Celexa, acetylopram, brand named Lexapro, which you've probably seen a bunch like on Hulu commercials, bro. I see Lexapro commercials all the time on Hulu. And then you have fluoxetine or Prozac, shout out Break-ins, Prozac. Also, I've new mic, guys. I feel like I'm getting too many like pops. I'm trying to work on that, guys. Give me some time. That is my fault. I'm doing my best. I apologize truly. So yeah, SSRIs are pretty much just antidepressants. And how they work is they work by enhancing the function of nerve cells in the brain that regulate emotion. So information is communicated through your brain cells through signals. The chemical messengers that deliver these signals are called neurotransmitters, and serotonin, again, is a type of neurotransmitter. Now, when these brain cells, or called neurons, send signals to one another, they release a little bit of a neurotransmitter so the message can be delivered, and then take back the neurotransmitter to send the next message. This process of replacing the neurotransmitter is called reuptake, which we've been talking about before a little bit. Now, if you're struggling with depression, the areas of your brain that regulate mood and send messages using serotonin might not function properly. SSRIs can help make more serotonin available by blocking this reuptake process. This allows serotonin to build up between neurons so messages can be sent correctly. They're called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors because they specifically target serotonin. So yeah, these seem pretty cool, pretty harmless, pretty awesome. They're illegal unless you have a prescription, you know? So for that reason, I'm going to have to give it an A tier because they're useful and I'm happy they exist for people that need them. Hell yeah. All right, next up on the iceberg, we have MDMA. Now, this one is another one that Blade has referenced in his music before, so again, I'm gonna be a little nicer to this one. Okay, so MDMA has a lot of different names. It is called MDMA, people call it people call it Molly, people call it ecstasy. So ecstasy comes in pill or powder form, and then when it's a powder, it's called by its chemical name MDMA, but it's the same drug technically. Ecstasy pills can be white, colored, round, square, or pressed into any shape. Some pills have designed stamps into them like well-known company logos the pills are then named after. Ecstasy powder looks like white gray crystals and is called MDMA, Mandy, or MD. Ecstasy pills are usually swallowed, and then MDMA is usually rubbed into the user's gums, and they both taste bitter and unpleasant. So how does MDMA feel? It feels very happy, hence the name ecstasy. It makes you very happy. It makes you feel loved up, like users often feel love and affection for the people that they're with and the strangers around them, and you also feel energized and alert. Ecstasy can also make people feel more in tune with their surroundings and like the music is more intense, which is why people use it in like nightclubs and at parties. A lot of people feel very chatty and uninhibited when they're on ecstasy, which makes them open up and talk more about things they might not do normally. And physical side effects include dilated pupils, tingling sensations, tightening or moving of the jaw muscles, raised body temperatures, and a faster heartbeat, and nausea, so be careful. And you might want to cut that off, because I got a little too close, so you might want to cut that off. I don't know how it sounds in the recording in the end after the effects. And then as you might expect, ecstasy can actually cause a very bad mood swing after the effects that like wear off, and you can be in a very like low in mood for a few days. There are a lot of risks to ecstasy is kind of varied. Like the strength of the pills are very varied depending on what pills you get. And it's kind of weird, like get this, if you do ecstasy, you actually should not drink too much water. It can be bad for you to drink too much water when you're doing it. That's kind of weird, bro. That's kind of freaky, shoddy. Now, how does it work exactly? So MDMA increases the release of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine in the brain. And its most notable effects are on serotonin, contributing to this intense mood lift and the emotional closeness experienced by users. Serotonin is like the love drug. So ecstasy, classic party drug. Kind of a basic drug. It just makes you happier. That's all it does. It just makes you happier. Just makes you have more serotonin. And since there is an entire Blade song named after it, I gotta give it an S tier. I have to. S tier for ecstasy. But don't go do it. Don't do it. It's illegal. Don't do it. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. Don't do it. It's illegal. It's illegal. Don't do it. Don't you dare. Okay, good. Now, next on the iceberg, we have fentanyl. So fentanyl is very scary. People talk about it all the time. It is a very scary drug, but is it really worth being that scary? Is it really that bad? So fentanyl is a type of synthetic opioid. And what that means exactly is that it is very similar to a natural opiate in your brain, but it's kind of like a synthetic and alternative version to that. So in your brain makes these natural opiates, right? That give you pain relief, euphoria, relaxation, and sleepiness. But then fentanyl is that, but it's artificial and it adds on to that, making you more pain relief, more relaxed, and more sleepy. Now, this is actually a very, very fatal drug. A common physical health risk is the suppression of normal breathing, including respiratory arrest, which is when you stop breathing altogether, and this is often fatal. Other risks include a loss of consciousness and coma, dizziness or fainting, withdrawal symptoms, which include nausea and retching and just, misery, itching, lethargy, and constipation. Now, if you inject these synthetic opioids or fentanyl, you can do nasty damage to your veins and arteries, and this can lead to gangrene, which is the death of body tissue, usually a finger, toe, or a limb. So yeah, fentanyl is bad. I'm not even getting into I could talk about even worse stuff, dude. Like HIV, it says, whoa, if you share needles, you can get HIV. Very bad, very bad. If you take too much of it, you can build a tolerance and become dependent on it, which is when it gets really, really bad. So yeah, fentanyl is just a very, very highly potent synthetic opioid, and it's used medically in very controlled doses for severe pain management, such as in cancer patients. And it's very similar to morphine or heroin, because morphine and heroin are also synthetic opioids. Now, fentanyl, I'm giving it the F tier. F for fentanyl. It is just very, very bad for you. Obviously, no, I'm giving fentanyl the F tier. F for fentanyl. It's bad for you. It's horrible for you. Except that one Kanye line in Ghost Town. But other than that, very bad for you. Very dangerous. Awful. Bad. Do not do fentanyl, please. Okay. Now we're moving on to layer 4 of this iceberg. So now with layer 4, the first drug we have is mephedrone. So mephedrone is a very powerful stimulant that is often compared to drugs like cocaine and ecstasy. So because it is so similar to ecstasy and cocaine and speed, it was actually sold firstly over the internet as an alternative to those drugs. Dealers would sell the drug as plant food or bath salts and labeled it, quote, not for human consumption, as a way to get around the law. And people have compared the smell to cat pee and exhaust fumes and say that it smells and tastes foul and metallic. Most people snort it, but you can also inject it, swallow it, or take a pill. Now, mephedrone makes you very alert, confident, anxious, agitated, overconfident, talkative, blah, blah, blah. It's just a very, very strong thing similar to ecstasy and cocaine. And there are actually a lot of hospitalizations. And also a lot of people who use it have reported blue or cold fingers, probably because mephedrone affects the heart and the circulation of blood. And it risks overstimulating your nervous system, which can cause hallucinations. See, this one's not very good. And the way that it works, again, is by increasing neurotransmitters. A lot of these are pretty similar in that respect. Yeah. And so all in all, I'm gonna have to give mephedrone a D tier because it seems pretty bad for you. And it's just a copycat. So come on, you're just a copycat, bro. Come on. Next up, we have 2CX. So 2CX, what the X stands for is it's like a variable, right? Where there are a bunch of different letters that could go there. So basically 2CX is a large family of drugs where the most popular is 2CB. Now 2Cs can give you a burning sensation and be painful to snort, and they're usually taken by being snorted, swallowed, or smoked. They're usually a powder or a small pill. But now what are they? They are psychedelics. They are hallucinogens, but they can also produce stimulant effects, which is pretty interesting. So they are hallucinogenics, but they also make you feel awake, alert, affectionate, energized, very sensitive and sexually aroused, and then also very extra aware of colors, sounds, and smells. And then it also does something very similar to ecstasy, where it makes you just happy and in tune with your surroundings. And it also obviously makes you see things, visuals, makes your reality distorted. So 2Cs are kind of like a mix of ecstasy and LSD is what a lot of people compare it to. What's really interesting is, I kind of touched on this a second ago, but it's really cool how these are like emotional, they are empathy inducers apparently. So they really make you just empathetic and affectionate towards people around you. Now, I found a really cool story about these 2Cs from a website called usersnews.com about a guy named Jesse. To kind of explain what it is, it's like a party drug, right? So this guy had been using party drugs named Jesse for a while, until one night he went to see a Brazilian electronic artist who had used a 3D projection at the Sydney Opera House. And so he needed to get some psychedelics. So all of his usual dealers were unavailable at the time, so he arranged to get some 2CB through his brother, because he had gotten some from his brother occasionally in the past. And his brother showed up with something he wasn't expecting. He was expecting to get pills of 2CB, but instead his brother showed up with some like little bags of yellowish white powder. And his brother told him that it was not the same thing as usual. He could not get the same stuff from his dealer because it was like he had some trouble or whatever, but it was 2C something. So it was either 2CE or 2CI, but nobody really knew. And they took it and it did not go as well. So the 2Cs, they can vary a lot. This guy said he spent the entire, almost the entire show curled up into a ball on his seat while terrifying shapes melted in and out of the heads for 2 hours. pills. And then when the show ended, the drugs didn't even wear off. It just got worse. And then he tried smoking weed to calm down, but the weed gave him like visions of huge starscapes and galaxies folding in on themselves. And then it says, and I quote, "For about an hour, I just paced back and forth in my boxers and my bathrobe, stopping only to repeat the word huge." That's crazy. So yeah, be careful with these. They're also extremely, extremely illegal in most places. So be careful. So this one is awesome, but it's also scary, very scary. So I'm gonna give it a B tier for that reason. A little scary, a little scary. All right, next up we got pregabalin. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, this sounds like when a girl with a baby in her is a baller. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me, but that's actually not what it is. So pregabalin is a prescription medicine used to treat epilepsy, neuropathic pain, and anxiety. So it's basically a painkiller used to treat the brain specifically. So like when you get damage to nerve tissue, it can produce a burning, shooting, or scalding feeling, and this pregabalin is used to treat that. And it's always like pills, like white or orange pills. And now, since it's a painkiller and it works in the brain, it produces feelings of euphoria, relaxation, and calmness. And it can also enhance or increase the euphoric effects of other drugs like heroin and other opioids. But pregabalin and opioids can interact to stop people breathing if taken together. This stuff causes dizziness, confusion, it can cause weight gain, trouble sleeping, it can cause flatulence. That's kind of funny. And it also can cause a chemical addiction. Like when people are put on it for actual medical reasons, it's usually recommended that it is not stopped abruptly, because if you stop taking it abruptly, it can cause anxiety, insomnia, nausea, pain, and sweating. And guess what? It's illegal. It's illegal. It's a Class C drug, so it can land you 2 years in prison for possession. And supplying someone else, even your friends, can get you up to 14 years in prison, even for a Class C drug. So that's kind of crazy. But now for the fun part, how does pregabalin work? So pregabalin is a medication that binds to the alpha-2 delta subunit of voltage-gated calcium channels in the central nervous system. Now that's a lot of big dumb words, but in essence, what it does is this reduces the release of several neurotransmitters, including glutamate, substance P, and norepinephrine, which leads to decreased pain signals and sedation. So it literally like kind of stops your body from feeling pain in a lot of ways, which includes emotional, so then you feel better and happier and euphoric, and that's how it works. Now this one I am going to give a B tier for ballin. They ballin because it seems kind of fun, but it also seems a little scary, but it doesn't seem too bad. Like from what it says, it's pretty easy to get off of or whatever. So a B tier drug for my hypothetical drug tier list. It's hypothetical. It's not real, guys. It's not real. Next up on the iceberg, we have Valium. Now I'm gonna go through this one pretty quick because Valium is pretty much the exact same thing as Xanax, for better or for worse. It's used to treat anxiety. It works the same way because it enhances the effect of GABA in the brain, which doing so produces calming, sedative, and anti-anxiety effects. This one's pretty much the same thing as Xanax. Valium is a lot more like wide and broad. Like Xanax treats anxiety as well as panic disorder, while Valium treats those and a bunch of other conditions as well. But I mean, they're pretty similar. They're both illegal though, so don't do it. Don't you do it. Oh, we got a fun one next. Next up, we have codeine. So codeine is a painkiller used to treat mild to moderate pain, and is available as tablets, syrup, or as a liquid for injecting. Now, on its own, codeine is a prescription-only opiate killer. It's used to treat pain that can't be stopped by more common painkillers, and this means you can't buy it legally without a prescription. Small amounts of codeine are sometimes mixed with other medicines like ibuprofen or aspirin, and these can be bought from a chemist or a pharmacy. Now, because codeine is highly addictive, medicines that contain it, such as cocodamol, carry warnings in the packs about the risk of addiction. They advise that the person taking the medicine doesn't take it for more than 3 days at a time without medical advice, because that's how long it takes for your brain to get chemically wired to it and dependent on it. Now, codeine causes feelings of relaxation, drowsiness, confusion, nausea, itchiness, and constipation. So it makes you like really drowsy and sleepy and nauseous, and people who take it may look out of it or like they're falling asleep. Now it usually takes about an hour for codeine to take effect, and then it lasts for about 3 to 4 hours on average, but it depends on the dose you take. And then the after effects, that it can cause you to still feel like lethargic and tired. Now there are a lot of side effects, like it can cause lower blood pressure, abnormal breathing, which can cause you to die. And also there are fatal side effects if you take it like with one of the other, because you know how I said that there are some drugs that have it but in very small doses? It's the same thing as with DXM, because the other things in those drugs like the ibuprofen or whatever, if you take that in a high enough dosage to where you can trip on it, then it becomes dangerous. So if you try to like get high off of a codeine that's in like cocodamol, you can get kidney failure, liver failure, indigestion, or bleeding in your stomach. So it's very dangerous. Now codeine is very addictive, and this is really interesting, some of the effects of withdrawal. So you got some basic ones sounds like anxiety and sleep disturbance, right? But then you also get nervous tremors, sweating, diarrhea, goosebumps, and a runny nose. It literally is a runny nose you can get from like withdrawal from codeine. That's crazy. Now, codeine is a class B drug, so it can get you up to 5 years in prison or 14 years for supplying it. Now, codeine works by binding to opioid receptors in the brain, which reduces the perception of pain and triggers the release of neurotransmitters that produce feelings of pleasure and well-being. Now, codeine is actually a lot less potent than a lot of other opioids, so it's a lot less strong. And codeine, okay guys, I mean, I'm a Future fan. What can I say? I gotta give it the S tier. I have to. How can I not? I have to give it the S tier, man. Codeine crazy? Are you kidding me? Well, I guess actually all the songs about codeine are about how it's like bad for you and how it ruins your life. That's what codeine crazy is all about. So actually F tier, bro. Codeine F tier. Yeah, sorry, F tier. Next on the iceberg, we have morphine. So morphine is a drug that's very similar to codeine because it is another opiate painkiller, but it's just a whole lot stronger. Morphine is, my God, my cat, bro. Always getting in my room. Anyways, morphine is used very medically. Usually it's used in like hospitals and stuff because it's a very effective, very strong painkiller. And again, it can cause things like lethargy, constipation, itching, very similar to codeine. It is actually derived from the opium poppy, and it binds and activates mu opioid receptors in the brain, as well as the spinal cord and other parts of the body. And this significantly reduces the perception of pain and promotes feelings of euphoria. So it's very similar to codeine. It's another opiate drug, but it's just like a lot stronger. Yeah. Next up on the iceberg, we have methadone. Now, I'm gonna go through this one quickly as well because it is another opioid drug. Methadone is a synthetic opioid, actually. It does not come from a plant, and it's used for pain management, and it's a part of a medication-assisted treatment for opioid addiction. So it's actually used to like get off of other opioids. It acts on the same opioid receptors as other opioids, but it has a longer duration of action, which helps to reduce craving and withdrawal symptoms without the high associated with drugs like heroin. So basically, it kind of is like a very stretched out and not strong opioid. So it does the same thing in a way to where your brain doesn't give you the withdrawal symptoms, but you also don't get the high from it. So it's a way to get off of other opioids without getting high. This one, I gotta give an A tier. It's good for you. It helps you get off other opioids. So that's a W in my book, A tier. Next up, we have the famous K-Rocks. Double K crystals, kiss my nuts, ketamine. So like I said earlier, ketamine is actually very similar to DXM and how it operates. It's sold as a grainy white or like light brown powder, and it looks very similar to cocaine, but it is a very different drug, and it tastes bitter and unpleasant. Ketamine is used in medicine as an anesthetic for humans and animals. Now, ketamine is a general anesthetic, so it reduces sensations in the body, and trips can last for like several hours. Taking ketamine makes you feel dreamlike and detached, or chilled and happy, also relaxed, but also confused and nauseated. Ketamine can also alter your perception of time and space and make you hallucinate, and it makes you stop feeling pain, similar to DXM. But unlike DXM, it is very illegal and it is a lot stronger. For example, if you take too much ketamine, you may lose the ability to move and go into what they call a K-hole. This feels like your mind and body have separated and you can't do anything about it, which can be a very scary experience. And then regular ketamine use can cause things like agitation, panic attacks, damage to memory, and depression. It takes about 15 minutes to take effect, and the buzz of it can last about like 30 minutes to an hour, but like I said, the trip lasts longer. Now, ketamine is a very powerful anesthetic, and it is very scary and easy to like kill yourself with. It can increase your heart rate and blood pressure. It makes you confused, delirious, and disconnected from reality. And it also can cause very serious bladder problems with the urgent and frequent need to pee. These can be very painful, and the pee can be blood-stained. So yeah, it can cause like damage to your urinary tract, your kidneys, give you cramps called K-cramps. But that's usually only people who have like been taking it for a long time. But here's interesting, it's actually being researched right now as a potential treatment for severe depression. But it's very early in the research, we don't really know anything yet. And also, it's very addictive, very addictive. So don't do it. Don't you do it. I know you want to, but don't do it. Don't make me come over there and knock the K-Rocks out of your hand. Okay, so before I explain how it works, let me explain to you what NMDA is. This is a receptor of glutamate, which is the primary excitatory neurotransmitter in the human brain. And as far as we know, basically what this does is it controls memory. So it has a lot to do with like memory. But again, a lot of like neurological sciences are so novel and new, we don't really know much, so we can't really say anything for certain. So I'm just saying that to say like, take what I say with a grain of salt, at least as far as what the chemicals actually do. Like the chemistry is right, but we're not exactly sure how it connects to your emotions, you know, like that's like very like supernatural, spiritual stuff, we're not sure. But anyways, so ketamine is a NMDA receptor antagonist. So it blocks NMDA receptors, and in doing so, ketamine disrupts pain pathways and alters the perception of sight and sound, leading to dissociative anesthesia. And at lower doses, they can actually have rapid acting antidepressant effects for these reasons. Now I gotta give out another S tier because of just how cool this is. Well, not cool, but you know, Echo 2K. What can I say, bro? Echo 2K's raps about it. Echo 2K, I'm sorry, S tier. Pretty cool, pretty cool. You know what drug should be on here actually? Gamer subs, because I want them to sponsor me. I actually have some with me right now, you hear that? That's my gamer subs. Sponsor me, sponsor me. Anyways, oh, Lucy likes that. Oh, shoot, Lucy. She's staring at it. Okay, anyways. Next on the list is lorazepam. Lorazepam is another anxiety drug. It's used primarily actually to treat seizure disorders like epilepsy, but it can also be used before surgery and medical procedures to relieve anxiety about them. So it's like a short-term relief of anxiety. It's a controlled substance. It's illegal because it can cause paranoid or suicidal ideation, and it can impair judgment, memory, and coordination, and it can lead to death if you pair it with But it's just another benzodiazepine similar to Valium and Xanax, enhancing GABA activity to produce calming effects. It's used for anxiety disorders, insomnia, blah 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 blah. But it has a very high risk of dependence and therefore withdrawal, which is why it's used very short-termly. It's very potent. I gotta give this bad boy a B for boring. Like, come on, why are you so boring? Next up, we have modafinil. Now, modafinil is actually really interesting because it is not an voice crack. Oh my god. Now, modafinil is actually very interesting because it is not an amphetamine, but it is a stimulant. It's a wakefulness promoting agent used to treat sleep disorders such as narcolepsy, and is thought to work by altering the natural chemicals in the brain associated with wakefulness. And then, unlike traditional stimulants, modafinil has a unique profile that promotes wakefulness without significant jitteriness or risk of abuse. They're apparently called smart drugs, and researchers at Oxford and Harvard are talking about them being like good for you or whatever. Now, while it is illegal to sell them in most places, it's not illegal to buy them, and there are a lot of websites often based in India which make it available to purchase. And so I'm reading about a story about this one guy who tried taking it after his friends talked about it, and he said that it works really well for like a few hours, but then after that he just can't sleep, and it's awful, and the side effects are awful, and the side effects last way longer than anything else. He was dehydrated, he wasn't hungry, his skin looked horrible, he just could not sleep at all, and it was just very unpredictable. So be careful out there, guys. This one getting a fat F, bro. I got so excited for a drug that was like smart and good for you and legal, but nope, it's not. It's bad for you. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't sell it. Bad for you. Next up, we have zolpidem. All right, zolpidem is a sleeping pill that can be taken for short-term treatment of severe insomnia. It helps you fall asleep more quickly, and it can make you less likely to wake up during the night, and it works by affecting GABA. You couldn't have guessed. And it's only available on prescription, so it's illegal. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't you dare do it. I'll come to your house. I will. Now, zolpidem takes about an hour to work, and you usually take it for a few days or weeks, up to 4 weeks. And it's only used for a short period because your body can get used to it very quickly, and then after a few weeks, it can't have the same effect, and your body gets dependent on it. Common side effects are a metallic taste in your mouth or a dry mouth, as well as feeling sleepy in the daytime when you don't want to be feeling sleepy. So yeah, it's just a little sleeping pill. Some serious side effects of taking too much are hallucinations, falling over, delusions, which is just like literally thinking things that aren't true, or feeling low or sad. Also memory loss. Zolpidem is a sedative hypnotic drug, and unlike the other ones that attack GABA with the benzodiazepines, which this one is technically, I think, but it's different because it acts selectively on receptors associated with sleep. And then this specificity helps induce sleep without the broader muscle relaxing or anti-anxiety effects of normal benzodiazepines. Pretty cool, huh? All right, and that completes layer 4. Let's get straight into layer 5, starting with heroin. All right, so heroin is another opiate similar to morphine or codeine, but it is very strong. And I say that it's similar to morphine because it's an opiate, but it's also actually made from morphine. So this is also extracted from the opium poppy. So some people smoke heroin by putting it on a surface like tinfoil and then heating it up and then inhaling the smoke. And this is called chasing the dragon, but then the most like famous way of taking it, I guess, is when heroin is dissolved in water and then injected. It can also be snorted because it is sold usually as like a brownish or white powder. Now, heroin makes you feel happy, relaxed, euphoric, and sleepy, and you know, it can cause dizziness and vomiting. But come on, we've all seen that one scene from Breaking Bad where Jesse takes it and he like goes crazy and like starts floating up. But heroin is one of the most dangerous drugs out there. In the UK, it is killed far more than any other illegal drug. And if you've seen Breaking Bad, you know that it can cause you to like, you know, do the thing where you vomit in your sleep and then choke. Yeah, heroin is very, very, very easy to overdose on. It's a very powerful drug and is highly, highly, highly addictive. So it's just not good all around. Now, once in the brain, heroin is converted back into morphine. Like I said, that it's made from morphine, so it's converted back into morphine, and then it binds to and activates the mu opioid receptors just like a morphine does. And this leads to the suppression of pain, increased feelings of pleasure and euphoria. And the activation of these receptors also affects the brainstem's control over automatic processes like breathing, which can be dangerous at high doses, obviously. Heroin's getting the F tier, buddy. I can't go any higher than the F tier. This one has destroyed more lives than Mr. Waternoose has kidnapped children. All right, next up, let's talk about 25X-NBOME. So NBOMEs, or NBOMs, I could just say, are a very potent and very toxic alternative to LSD. They were previously investigated legally as like research tools to probe the location of 5-HT2A receptors in the central nervous system of non-human mammals. And that's about the only legal use these things have. They are very strong and very toxic. And some dealers or suppliers even like purport these as being LSD. So like if you're buying LSD from like a shady guy, he might give you one of these instead. And they're usually sold online. And it's sold usually as the same way as LSD, like on like a piece of paper, you know, like a tab. But they can also be sniffed in their powder form or absorbed via the nose or mouth if a spray form is used. So it's kind of more diverse. Now, the effects are pretty similar to LSD. It can give you hallucinations, time can appear to speed up and slow down, color, sound, and objects can get distorted, and you can experience double vision. So yeah, this one, I mean, it's I guess toxic or whatever, but I feel like all drugs are toxic, so like, I don't know. N-bomb, give it a B tier for bomb. And the way they work is pretty similar to LSD, like I already kind of said. They just bind and go to the 5-HT2A serotonin receptor, which gives it like a higher mood, gives you weird thoughts, altering perception, blah, blah, blah. But they're also known for their potency and risk of toxic effects compared to other psychedelics, so whatever, man. Don't do it though, don't do it, it's illegal, it's bad for you, don't do it. All right, next up on the iceberg, we have Al-Lad, or 6-allyl-6-nor-LSD. Al-Lad is a psychological drug structurally similar to LSD, acting as a potent agonist at serotonin receptors. By the way, if you didn't know, an agonist is like the opposite of antagonist, so it just means that it like binds to it and, you know, does serotonin. And then again, similar to the N-bombs, it especially works at the 5-HT2A receptor. And this leads to similar effects to LSD, including visual hallucinations, altered perception of time and reality, and emotional experiences, though with a potentially different qualitative experience and duration. So this one is just like, because you know how like drugs work because of like the shape of the protein or the shape of the drug, you know, like the actual molecules and atoms and stuff, like the shape of it is like what makes it happen. This is just a chemical that is shaped very similar to LSD, so it's just pretty much LSD. To my understanding, I could be totally wrong, just saying. I'm not a chemist, not a chemist at all. I could be totally wrong. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. That's what all the research is saying, that it's just like an analog of it, which means it's like very similar. It's just like a copy of it, kind of. It's like artificial sugar, you know, like how aspartame isn't actually sugar, but it is shaped similar to sugar, so it feels like it's sweet. Like the same thing pretty much going on there. And I don't care. This one, skip the tier list, bro. This one I don't care. Next up, we got 4-ACO-DMT, or O-acetylpsilocin. Probably said that way wrong, but you guys love to make fun of my pronunciations. So 4-ACO-DMT is a synthetic psychedelic believed to be metabolized into psilocin, the active compound in psilocybin mushrooms, which is like the shrooms you trip on, you know, like the active ingredient in it is psilocybin. Now it acts as a serotonin receptor agonist, again, similar to the last ones, particularly at, guess what, 5-HT2A, leading to similar effects to psilocybin and LSD, which include altered perception, mood, and thought with visual and emotional components. So this is just pretty much a semi-synthetic psychoactive drug that is kind of used as a potentially useful alternative to psilocybin for pharmacological studies. So it's kind of the same thing as the last one, but for shrooms instead of LSD. Like it's like a similar shape. It's a semi-synthetic drug, pretty similar, does the same thing pretty much. So yeah, whatever. I don't care, man. This one's getting like a B tier, whatever. It's whatever. It's cool. Next up, we got AMT. AMT is a synthetic psychedelic and stimulant, and it acts as a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, or a MAOI, and it releases serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, leading to its combined stimulant and hallucinogenic effects, including euphoria, increased energy, and altered perception. Now, this one sounds pretty fun. I'm kidding. I don't do drugs. I'm kidding. YouTube bot. I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke. YouTube bot. Come on. Come on. Come on, YouTube. This one's actually very illegal to have. It's a class A drug, so it can get you up to 7 years in prison just for having any of it at all. So yeah, I take back what I said. I take it back. So yeah, AMT is usually a pill you take, and yeah, it makes you feel euphoric, upbeat, friendly, kind of anxious and aggressive sometimes, depending on your mood when you take it. Gives you hallucinations, gives you like a high heartbeat, but yeah, this one getting the A tier for AMT. All right, next on the iceberg, we have Bromo Dragonfly. Okay, so for this one, I found a Reddit thread that I think was really, really interesting, and I'm just gonna kind of read that thread. Not word for word, but shout out Silk Jr. for this on Reddit. In 2009, a RC company had essentially contacted a shady Chinese lab to produce some 2CB fly. However, somewhere along the lines, maybe due to Danish and Mandarin translation issues, someone messed up, and then they produced the amphetamine version of that drug called Bromo Dragonfly. Now, this is an issue because the safe doses of 2CB fly are not safe when they are Bromo Dragonfly. Like, the doses that are safe of 2CB fly are very dangerous if you take that same dose in Bromo Dragonfly, which is active in the micrograms compared to the milligrams. A microgram is 1/100th of a milligram, so it is way, way, way stronger. And then in overdoses, which is what people pretty much are guaranteed if they take any amount of Bromo Dragonfly thinking that it's 2CB fly, but Bromo Dragonfly causes intense hallucinations and vasoconstriction that can last for days, 3 to 4 days, and it was so bad that it actually led to some amputations from people who had taken it. And not only is Bromo Dragonfly an amphetamine-like drug with powerful vasoconstrictive effects, it is also a MAO inhibitor, which makes it extra dangerous because everybody knows you shouldn't mix stems with MAOIs. Not everybody. I mean, I didn't know that because I'm kind of a little goody two-shoes white kid, but I didn't know that. Goody two-shoes kid. Well, I can't say that. Don't put that in. Loser. But anyways, Bromo Dragonfly caused fatalities. People had cardiac arrest, seizures, and some even vomited blood. And then the owner of the site actually also died because they also took the Bromo thinking that it was 2C fly. Yeah, this is really, really scary. Bromo Dragonfly is a potent psychedelic drug that acts as a serotonin receptor with, again, an affinity for the 5-HT2A receptor, but its structure resembles that of both phenethylamine and tryptamine psychedelics, leading to its long-lasting psychoactive effects, including profound visual hallucinations and altered perception. And it's known for its, again, usually, like, unusually long duration and high potency, and it's very toxic. It's super potent. This bad boy is getting an F for funny. Like, bro, how do you mess up that bad? Also, Dragonfly's a cool name. So next up, we have 3-MeO-PCP. I'm gonna say now we have our first S tier in a while because guess what this drug connects to? It connects to the sigma 1 receptor. This is a sigma drug. Sigma drug. Okay, so 3-MeO-PCP is a designer drug, which I didn't know that was until I started researching this video, but what a designer drug is it's like what I was talking about earlier, how like artificial sugars are like sugar, but they're not actually sugar, but they feel the same on your mouth because they're like the same shape. So a designer drug is a drug that is engineered and designed to be almost the exact same as an illegal drug, but not. So like as like a dumb example, if somebody took the exact chemical compound for weed, right? Like for the CBD or whatever, or the THC or whatever, and then they changed one chemical and made it one other chemical, right? To where it's not technically THC anymore. It's not weed. It's not illegal, but it gives you pretty much the exact same feeling. And there are a bunch of those as an example. But what was this designed to be similar to? PCP. It acts as a NMDA receptor antagonist, and it also has an affinity for the sigma 1 receptor, like I said, contributing to its dissociative, hallucinogenic, and euphoric effects, which can include a sense of detachment from the self and environment, altered sensory perception, and euphoria. So this is kind of similar to like DXM, KET, and then obviously PCP. And it's not technically illegal or a controlled substance, but also, fair warning, possession or distribution of 3-MeO-PCP for human use could potentially be prosecuted under the Federal Analog Act because it is a designer drug made to be similar to an illegal drug, PCP. And this one I'm giving the S tier again, like I said, bro, Sigma, and it's like a legal form of PCP. This one's smart. I mean, bro, they got around the system. They broke the system, bro. Oh my god, I gotta leave for school like 10 minutes. We gotta hurry this layer up, guys. Woo. I'm not even dressed yet, dude. I haven't gotten dressed or done my hair or anything yet. It's 9:20 a.m. right now. I gotta be at school at 10 o'clock. I gotta hurry, guys. If I fail this Spanish quiz, it's your guys' fault, okay? All of you. Next up, though, we have DPH, or diphenhydramine. This one's kind of a not very well-known drug. This one's not very well-known. It's kind of like a rare drug. You probably haven't heard of it before. Oh, did I get you? Did I get you or no? Did I get you? Oh, did I get you? Because it actually is a very well-known drug. This is Benadryl. This is literally just Benadryl. Everybody knows you can trip on Benadryl if you take enough. It's used to treat insomnia and allergies, but if you take enough of it, it can get a little bit stronger. It can produce delirium, hallucinations, and confusion, which is why you see all the memes of like, oh, the Hat Man. Like you can literally see like shadow figures and all this stuff if you take too much DPH. It's also kind of dangerous because it's so legal. I feel like it's similar to DXM, you know, to where it's legal so people don't really think that it can be dangerous, but it really is, and people aren't careful enough with it. Like if you choose to do this one, and this one I don't think I have to say anything about because it's just literally like legal and it's not illegal to trip on it or anything. It's like fine. But if you choose to do it, be very careful and like do your actual research before you do it. Check, see how much you should take for your body weight, you know, be smart, don't be stupid, obviously. But anyways, DPH is an antihistamine with anticholinergic properties, which is used to treat allergies, nausea, and insomnia. But then at higher doses, like I said, they can produce delirium, hallucinations, and confusion due to its action on the central nervous system, blocking acetylcholine receptors. It's similar to DXM, where DXM is a over-the-counter drug that stops a certain process in your brain that is usually like connected with a sickness. But then if you take enough of it, it can start turning off other parts of your brain as well. DPH, though, getting a S tier. I mean, come on. What can I say? What can I say? S tier drug, S tier drug. All right, next up we have APVP, or alpha pyrrolidinopenthiophenone. APVP is a synthetic stimulant of the cathinone class, similar to substances like MDPV. It acts as a norepinephrine dopamine reuptake inhibitor, leading to intense feelings of euphoria, increased energy, and heightened alertness. So we've been over this one, like similar things to APVP before. APVP, I thought that was like when you fight other people in Minecraft, when you're fighting in Minecraft against other players. Players is player. That's what I thought PvP was. And it's usually found in a white or pink crystal form. And on the street, it's known as gravel or again bath salts. It can be eaten, snorted, injected, or vaporized in e-cigs. Yeah, this one's whatever, bro. It has a high potential for abuse and adverse psychological effects, obviously. But it's not like legal. So like, oh man. APVP getting the D tier, bro. Getting the D tier, bro. I mean, get an identity, bro. You're just like the same as anything else. Like, come on, man. Get your own identity, bro. All right, next up we have hexin, or ethyl hexadrone. Hexin is another synthetic stimulant of the cathadone class, known for its euphoric and stimulant effects. And this also acts as a norepinephrine dopamine reuptake inhibitor, similar to cocaine, but with a shorter duration of action and a potentially higher risk of compulsive redosing and side effects. So yeah, hexin is kind of just like cocaine, but like it just like lasts shorter. It's also known as bath salts. Like this one and the previous one are both very similar. It's very similar to cocaine and methamphetamine, blah blah blah. Another one that just doesn't really have an identity, bro. Like sure, it gives you hallucinations, racing thoughts, euphoria, talking excessively, extremely social moods. You can get a crash from it, but like, bro, there are other drugs that do this. Like, be your own thing, you know? Whatever, F tier, bro. Come on. This one's not even fun. Like, jeez, bro, F tier. Next up, we have MDPV, which I think was mentioned actually whenever I was talking about APVP. MDPV is, guess what? A potent synthetic cathinone, acting as a, guess what? Norepinephrine dopamine reuptake inhibitor. It does the same thing as APVP. It produces strong stimulant effects, including increased energy, alertness, and euphoria, blah, blah, blah. Sorry guys, I promise I'm getting bored, but just some of these are kind of similar, you know? It's like, these are just so unoriginal, you know, like work differently, bro. Oh yeah, you can take it orally or intravenously or rectally, blah, blah. I mean, that's such kind of cool. You can take this stuff rectally. You can take MDPV rectally. Okay, A tier. All right, and that is the end of layer 5. Let's get straight into layer 6. Starting with U47700. U47700 is a synthetic opioid that acts on the brain similarly to morphine or heroin, but is much more potent, which those are already the more potent like opioids. So this one is very, very potent. This binds to mu opioid receptors in the brain, which are part of the body's pain relief system, leading to longer analgesic effects. By the way, analgesic means pain relieving. And then this binding mimics the actions of endorphins, the body's natural painkillers, resulting in feelings of euphoria, relaxation, and and pain relief. Now, its effects are similar to other opioids, including pain relief, sedation, euphoria, and unfortunately, a high potential for addiction and overdose. The risk of respiratory depression, which is like slowed breathing, is particularly high, which is the primary cause of opioid overdose deaths in general. Now, U47700 is a controlled substance in most countries, including the United States, so it's like illegal to manufacture, distribute, and possess. And then before it was like this widely banned, this drug was actually on the internet labeled as a research chemical, and users have reported taking it in various forms, including powder and tablets. And like with the powder, they would snort, swallow, or inject it, and they would inject it like mixed with water. And apparently its nickname, like its street name, is U4, and it used to be like really popular before it was legalized, because it used to be like legal, and it was just pretty much like legal heroin, pretty much. I'm gonna put that one in D tier, because it seems really dangerous. D tier. Next up, we have 4FA. 4FA is a synthetic stimulant with a structure similar to amphetamine. It increases the levels of several neurotransmitters in the brain, including dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine, leading to stimulant and mild entactogenic effects. And basically, this means that it can make users feel energetic, euphoric, and more sociable. The effects of 4FA are described as a mix between traditional stimulants like amphetamine and MDMA, with increased energy, euphoria, and enhanced social ability, but with fewer empathogenic effects than MDMA. So like fewer like empathy effects, because like MDMA makes you like really like empathetic and emotional or whatever. Now 4FA is very illegal, very illegal. And similarly to U47700, it was sold online as a research chemical or a quote legal high before it was banned, because this is like a pretty new drug, and it's typically found in powder or pill form. And it first gained popularity in the party scene because it was able to produce the energy and euphoria that came with MDMA, but without the intense come down that usually came with MDMA. So this one seems kind of based, bro. This one's getting a B for based, actually, personally. B for based. But don't do it, it's illegal, don't do it. Educational, hypothetical, comedy content right here. Next up, we have 6-APB, or benzofury. 6-APB is a synthetic compound that acts as a serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine reuptake inhibitor and releaser, with a particular affinity for serotonin. This increases the concentration of these neurotransmitters in the brain, leading to stimulant and psychedelic effects. Now, its effects are somewhat similar to MDMA, including feelings of euphoria, increased empathy, and social ability, as well as altered sensory perception. However, 6-APB tends to have a kind of a lot longer duration of action. It like stays in your body for longer. Now, the legality actually varies depending on what country you're in, so they're kind of behind on this one, you know, so check your country before you buy some. And just like the other synthetic drugs too, this was sold online as a research chemical first and is usually found in powder or pill form. Now, 6-APB is part of the benzofurin family of drugs, which are known for their unique chemical structure. And they're unique because they combine aspects of amphetamine with a component called benzofurin. This one, bro, this one's getting an A for APB because this one's low-key still legal in some places, so you can hear that, can't you? Next up, we have 2-FMA. 2-FMA is a psychoactive research chemical related to methamphetamine and amphetamine. Its mechanism is thought to involve increasing the release of dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin in the brain, leading to stimulant effects that are focused more on mental alertness and productivity than euphoria. Users report that 2-FMA provides a significant increase in energy, focus, and motivation, with less of the recreational high or euphoria seen with other stimulants. It's sometimes used as a nootropic or a study aid. 2-FMA's legal status varies, with some countries having pretty specific bans on it, but some not really, and it's often in a legal gray area where it's not explicitly like a controlled substance, but is kind of like potentially covered under broader analog laws, which again are the ones where it says like even drugs that are similar to the banned ones are still banned, like designer drugs. And this again was available online through research chemical vendors, which is pretty cool. 2-FMA is like a really like cognitive enhancing drug. It was really not made, but it's used mostly to like increase and enhance your focus. And it's mostly a research thing. I don't feel like a lot of people try to get high on this. I mean, obviously people will, but you know, whatever. F tier for boring. F tier for FMA, bro. This is kind of boring. What are you gonna do? Do your little schoolwork, huh? Do your homework on this? Yeah, boring loser. I'm just kidding. Do your homework. Stay in school. Now, next up, we have 2M2B, which is 2-methyl-2-butanol. 2M2B is a tertiary alcohol with sedative, hypnotic, and anxiolytic properties. It acts in the brain pretty similarly to other depressants by enhancing the action of GABA, the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, leading to a calming effect on the nervous system. Now, its effects can be likened to those of other central nervous system depressants like alcohol, including relaxation, decreased anxiety, and at higher doses, impaired motor function and sedation. 2-MTB is not widely regulated and remains legal in many countries, partly due to its kind of like, I guess, relatively obscure status and use as a solvent or a chemical reactant outside of recreational contexts. So this one's kind of like a nerd drug. It's sometimes available, like I said, through online chemical suppliers as a solvent, and recreational users consume it orally, but it has a really strong taste and like odor, which makes it kind of less appealing than just like alcohol. And a fun fact is that despite its alcohol-like effects, 2-MTB has a much longer duration of action and doesn't produce the same hangover effects, which makes it kind of like a more appealing alcohol in a way, but also not, because it's bad for you. It could be bad for you, so be careful. Be careful. Remember that just because it's legal doesn't mean that it's safe, so be careful, everybody. And with that, we are actually done with layer 6. I forgot if I already ranked 2-MTB, but I'm giving it a B tier for 2-MTB. B, it's kind of boring. It's whatever, you know. But now we are getting into the final layer, guys. This one is actually really cool. These ones are pretty awesome. I'm excited to talk about these, especially this first one, which is reindeer urine. Reindeer urine is a drug taken in Siberia. So the use of reindeer urine in a drug context, again, comes from indigenous practices in Siberia. The local shamanic traditions involve the consumption of Amanita muscaria mushrooms, known for their hallucinogenic properties. But here's the thing, these mushrooms are toxic to us to eat by themselves. But guess who is not toxic to? Reindeer. So reindeers have a fondness for these mushrooms and they can consume them without apparent harm. Now, the psychoactive compounds in Amanita muscaria, primarily mucimol and ibotenic acid, can pass through the reindeer's body and be excreted in their urine. Now, indigenous people discover that they can consume the reindeer urine as a safer way to experience the mushroom's psychoactive effects, avoiding the toxic effects of the mushrooms. The effects of this include altered states of consciousness, visual and auditory hallucinations, and a sense of euphoria or spiritual experiences. However, the practice is deeply embedded in specific cultural rituals and is not considered recreational. This is crazy, bro. People actually be drinking reindeer piss. It's wild. This is not even really regulated or even recognized in most parts of the world, again, because it's just like an indigenous thing in Siberia. It is cool though to show like how connected so many like organizations or like cultures are to their nature. I think that nature is really beautiful, and it's like maybe not in this case exactly, right? I mean, it's beautiful still, but like, you know what I mean. I'm canceling myself right now. I didn't mean to say that. Whatever, bro. I just think it's cool how so many cultures are so like in tune with like nature. Anyways, this one's getting S tier for just how cool it is and how beautiful it is. S tier, S tier, S tier. Next we have crocodile or desomorphine. Crocodile is the street name for a homemade injectable drug known scientifically as desomorphine. It gained infamy in Russia and some parts of Eastern Europe due to its devastating effects on users. Crocodile is synthesized from codeine, which is available over the counter in many countries, mixed with various toxic chemicals. Now, desomorphine is an opioid, meaning it works by binding to opioid receptors in the brain again. However, this can be dangerous because the illicit synthesis process leaves behind toxic contaminants, which can cause severe damage to the skin and other organs. Now, while it can produce short-term euphoria similar to other opioids, crocodile's most notorious effects are the severe tissue damage and gangrene at injection sites, often leading to amputations, severe infections, and ultimately death. Desomorphine itself is a controlled substance in many countries, but the homemade production and use of crocodile are illegal everywhere. Its use is driven by its low cost and the scarcity of heroin or other opioids in certain countries. Now, the name crocodile actually comes from the scary greenish appearance at users' skins of the injection sites, reminiscent of a crocodile's skin. It's kind of crazy. This one's getting an F tier because it just seems so dangerous, bro. Like, who would do this? This one's scary, honestly, I think. All right, next up we have carfentanil. Carfentanil is an extremely potent synthetic opioid, originally developed as an elephant tranquilizer. It's estimated to be about 10,000 times more potent than morphine and 100 times more potent than fentanyl, its close chemical relative. Like other opioids, it works by binding to opioid receptors in the brain, but due to its potency, it can really easily overwhelm the brain's respiratory centers, leading to rapid onset of respiratory arrest and death. Now, at the dosages that humans would encounter it, especially in illicit drug markets, the primary effect is at a high risk of death and overdose. There is literally literally like no safe recreational use of carfentanil for humans, but it's actually recognized for like really restricted medical use, which is kind of scary. And illicitly, it has been mixed into heroin and other opioids to increase potency, often without the user's knowledge, leading to a spike in overdose deaths. So yeah, this one's really scary, and due to its extreme potency, carfentanil poses a significant threat not just to users, but to the first responders and law enforcement officers who might come into contact with it accidentally during drug seizures. Like, that's how strong and crazy it is, bro. Like, you've heard of like, oh, you pick up a dollar bill in New York, don't do it, might have fentanyl on it. Like, this stuff is like 100 times more potent. It's like that strong and like dangerous. It's crazy. But that's the end, I think. That's all the drugs. I really hope you guys all enjoyed this video. This one was a really long one. I am at 3 hours of recording. I'm not sure how long the video is going to be in the end. I got to cut out all the dead space and stuff, but like, this one was really fun to make, and I really hope you guys liked it. I think it was really fun. Let me know in the comments if you want more chemical, interesting stuff like this. Yeah, everybody have a great day. Sleep well. Sweet dreams.